Welcome to The Roofer Show with your host, Dave Sullivan. You found the podcast that helps roofing contractors grow their businesses, make more money, and have more free time.
Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome to the Roofer Show podcast, the place to be if you want to grow a more profitable roofing business. I'm your host, Dave Sullivan, the roofing coach, and I have been a successful roofing contractor for over 30 years, and I'm here to share with you what I've learned. Today we have got a great show. We've got Dima back on from the SEO school, and I've been wanting to get Dima back on because, it's been about 3 years since you were last on. I think things have probably changed a little bit when it comes to SEO. And so I'm looking forward to getting an update. But Dima, why don't you give us a little of your backstory? You've got an interesting story and how you got involved with this and what you got going on at the school now.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Dave, for having me again. 3 years, my goodness.
Yeah, man.
I didn't realize that was that long. I was like maybe 2, but 3.
Time
okay.
flies. Yeah, this is I think the 420 episode. Been doing this for a while, so
Wow.
But I love it.
You're a veteran, man. Yeah, the OG. Well, thank you for having me again. Well, how I started, huh? Well, that's quite a story, I would say. You know, I'm here in Spokane, Washington. We moved here in 2015, and I'm a lab technician in a dental clinic. That's why they moved me here, to start up new offices to help them start off here in the new market. So I'm managing dental labs, making dentures, hundreds of dentures per month. I've been to many people's mouths and, worked with a lot of dentists. So that's my specialty, to be honest.
Wow.
And I think that's where I draw the love for details, just because you stare at teeth for a long time and you start noticing things that nobody else notices, or you just kind of, especially when you start talking to new people, you instead of looking them in the eyes, you start looking them in the teeth. So that's where my career took me. But I always wanted to have an ability to, have capacity to make more money, to have more free time, and not depend on my limits as far as time restrictions and as to how much I can make money. So for me, business was a natural thing. My dad was a businessman. My brother is also a businessman. I'm a kind of naturally a businessman. Grew up in that kind of family where we're looking for ways to make more impact, but also to be compensated for things that are unique, that have value. And to me, SEO is something that I've kind of stumbled upon because I like the idea of making money while I'm sleeping. Because so much of our time is spent when we're not working. So I'm like, well, how can I make a system that generates revenue and delivers value even when I'm not clocked in? So that's where I stumbled upon a few SEO courses in 2015. And part-time, I started doing this as I'm working full-time at this lab. I had 3 kids at that time. So at the, many nights, I'm like working on this SEO thing. And eventually I had my first website that really kind of took me half a year or so to get to the top. And I totally sponsored it by myself, and kind of something that I wanted to do to make sure I know what I'm talking about. Something I needed to have in order to prove and show to others as a proof of concept that this works. And after that, I knew that there is money in this. There is opportunities in this. There is a big future in this if I keep growing. This was not in roofing at all. It was like in towing and other things. So it took me a few years to really specialize in one thing. And that's when we started growing the company. Now we have 15 people outside US and 4 people inside US, all working exclusively within roofing SEO school. So that's kind of a short story.
Right. All right. And you were saying you've got quite a few members in the group now, and you've really grown the business.
Yeah, I think we've had over 300 companies, roofing companies, go
Okay.
through the school in one shape or another. Some just kind of peeked in, some stayed, some are still here. But many roofing companies went through the school, and some graduated, and we're happy that they're no longer in the school because they squeezed out
Yeah.
everything that we have. That's kind of the point of the school, right? Is to graduate, not never to be a lifetime student, unless there is opportunities and new things that you want to keep growing in, and there's always that too. In SEO especially, there's always new opportunities, new areas, new ways to capitalize. So we're especially this year, we're very much kind of introducing and reintroducing the idea of um, plurality, be having multiple digital real estate spots online, making sure that you're visible everywhere, especially now with the birth of AI in 2024, like in the most kind of big sense of the word birth. Um, Now you have to be omnipresent. So for you to be successful as a businessman, being everywhere is not an option. I even say search engine optimization is no longer about Google. It's really better to kind of reintroduce that word and explain it as search everywhere optimization. That's my definition of SEO now.
Well, let's take a back up and
Mhm.
let's go over what it is so everybody gets the basic understanding. And then we can talk about how it's changed, where it's going, because a lot of people say SEO is dead. It doesn't work anymore. So don't bother,
Yeah.
with AI and all the different platforms. So why don't you give us a little big picture overview, and what do you see that's ahead for us?
Yeah, I mean, SEO has been dead since it was born, in some sense. Meaning, a lot of people who do not know how to adjust, they would rather say it's dead, and that's just an easy way out of something. It's always about specializing, right? Specializing. It's what we do is we specialize. What you guys, what your listeners are doing, Dave, are specializing. So whenever you specialize, you always dig deeper, and that's where you find water, right? So you don't dig shallow wells, many of them. You just pick one or two, and you just really go deep, and that's where you find value. And I think SEO in this day and age has evolved, of course, like everything has evolved, but especially in 2023 and 4, when AI stepped into the picture and really started dominating the conversations, and Google started changing, and everything started changing. ChatGPT, OpenAI, Claude, all of those platforms that did make a big splash, big impact on SEO, I would say. And but at the same time, I would say, like I mentioned, search everywhere optimization is where the answer is, because what is ChatGPT if not a search engine, right? It's just a better, more efficient way to get results, and especially when it comes to informational searches. So Google is useless now for informational searches to a large degree. Still, many people will use it for that purpose. The kind of adaptation takes a lot of time usually, but informational searches are lost to much quicker models that have less of steps to get to the actual answers, right? Which is what ChatGPT is. My wife loves ChatGPT. I kind of feeling jealous sometimes how much she's spending with ChatGPT asking questions, and it really makes you look smart when you need to get quick answers and answer comment online or something like
Right.
that. But for local businesses, that has also produced some differences. It changed a few things, because there are people who are searching for local businesses on these platforms, a lot less, but there's going to be more and more and more of them.
Right.
And I'm already hearing some of our students sharing that their clients are finding them through ChatGPT. But the interesting thing is, it's not like it's totally different from SEO. In fact, results that you have from searching for roofing company in your city using AI, they're very much the same as the results that you find through Google. They're just more optimized, they're just more organized, but a lot of times they're the same results. So I would say the SEO is far from dead, and it's actually a lot more alive, because now there's these models that are available to people who want the ease of use. So I think AI models are going to be more common than before, and more searches are going to be happening than before, because they're just easier, they're more accessible. Most probably a lot of older people also going to start using ChatGPT to find their solutions to their questions. So now the
Yeah.
question is, how do you make sure you show up everywhere? And that's where SEO stands head and shoulders above other marketing methods that are very kind of tied into that specific engine that person is on, versus organic, where it's kind of dilutes the barriers. If you show up in one, a lot of times you're going to show up in many, and you just need to make sure you have strong visibility, and that's something that also is changing. Visibility now is very, very tied to branding. So we can talk about that also a lot more.
Yeah, I use ChatGPT a lot. Just this morning, my wife's over in Colombia, so I just put in, and it's all about the prompts, what you use, and she's looking for these specific places. So I need uh, three of the best restaurants that meet this criteria
Yeah.
for dinner and for lunch, and then rooftop bar, all of this stuff. So it's give me three perfect days, and these were the top places. It was amazing. Yeah, just send that over, and there you go. There's your itinerary.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep. Same
it's
thing.
changing. Hmm.
Here
Hmm.
in my office, we embraced AI pretty quickly. We embraced ChatGPT. It was never a threat to us. It was actually a solution, because now we were able to help companies create hundreds of blogs that make a difference, create content at scale. You still want to be unique about it. You still don't want it to be just generic. You still want to have branding in it, but tools that are able to optimize and analyze your website, and those are AI tools. They're so precise.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're loving it.
So let's talk about a few things. Let's start off with I've got clients that start up with me, and the first thing I do is I look at their website, and these websites are just terrible. So what do we do, and how do we get them started?
Yeah.
As far as getting the website, I imagine that's number one, is that we've got to put that together. And how do we do that, and what's important with websites these days?
Yeah, I mean, in one sense, websites are going to become less and less important. In one sense, meaning because people are going to because people are going to start searching everywhere else, right? There's going to be a lot more venues to get to the answers. There's going to be less need for a website to be the primary kind of spot for your traffic. At the same time, it is sort of the foundational element of brand building. So if a brand is the factor now that allows you to be on all of these platforms that people are going to start using and already are, then the website is the first building block for that. So it's not just for the client, but it's also for your brand recognition. So that's why it's important to have a website, even if you're not going to have that many eyeballs there. And who knows, maybe you're in a tiny town and you're not going to have that many eyeballs anyway. But it's important for you to have that as the first step of trust, first step of earning that brand recognition element that all of these search engines, large learning models will look at and say, okay, this company is legit. That's the very foundational thing. So
Mhm.
you don't need to be overthinking it too much. Obviously, you don't want it to be ugly. You don't want it to be super outdated. But there's so many beautiful, website building platforms out there that you can use. Wix is one of them, but also WordPress and whatnot. I would just advise not to get too worried about this and kind of take so much time that you never get to it. You get something. It's better to have something than nothing. But of course, you want to optimize it correctly. I always say, the difference between us and other companies or marketing companies or website companies, for us, SEO is the driver and the website is a passenger. Where most of the time it's the other way around, where website design is the driver and the SEO is the driver. And that's a problem a lot of times, because if you tell your story wrong to Google about who you are and what you do and where you're at and when you want to rank for, that is the first impression. And that first impression you can only have one time. And once you give Google a wrong impression about who you are and what you do, it's a lot harder to fix that. So now you have a beautiful website, but it's unoptimized and it's telling a story that is not really helping your bottom line. And that is something that potentially will take a lot longer to fix than having a website that from the very get-go, from the start, very clearly communicates its identity. When Google documents leaked, and when Yandex documents leaked last year, because Yandex and Google are kind of like twin brothers, this was literally the factor. It's called Google. It's basically this element of they call it the radius, the radius element of the website. What does that mean? It's just basically talking about the topical focus of the website. There is such thing that Google assigns to each website as a topical focus. And if you're not clear about who you are and what you do and where you're at, that's going to be a hard one. You might have the most beautiful website, but it's going to have a much harder time to get to the top if you don't do it right from the start. So it's important to, yes, have a website, but make sure you're being very clear about, your primary services, your primary location. You utilize all the tools to clearly communicate that.
Are they actually have them do a website audit, and that's just through SEMrush or whatever, have them go through the website and everything's missing, it's not optimized, Google doesn't even know who the hell they are.
Yeah.
Is that worth doing and fixing, or do you just trash it and start from scratch?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say if Google doesn't know who you are, like if you're not ranking for anything worth ranking for, it's one problem. It's not the biggest problem. The bigger problem if you start ranking for things that you don't want to rank for. Like you start ranking for locations that you don't service just because you mentioned something there, and maybe you don't mind, maybe you do service that location, right? But that's really not your top priority, right? But you've mentioned it and now you're ranking there. Or for services that are secondary to you, right? Let's say you maybe do gutters or maybe do siding, but your primary thing is roofing. So now you loaded all of that content mixed in with roofing, and Google's like, oh, well, you mentioned that your gutters company as well as roofing as well as siding. Well, roofing is more competitive, so we're not going to rank you for that. Siding is a little bit less, but gutters is not competitive, so we're gonna assign an identity to you as a gutter company. Google literally has to make a choice as to how it sees you, and if you're not careful with your words, if you start going after everything, then Google is just going to pick a few things and assign that identity to you. Now you're a gutter company servicing a town that you don't care about. So versus a roofing company that services the primary location that you want to be in. So that is a situation that's a lot harder to fix, because now you're like, you're playing a game of multiple personalities with Google. You're trying to prove to Google that you're not who you claim to be. And that's just a long game to try to change the perception that you have created. So I would advise, stay away from miscommunicating of who you are and where you service, where you service your customers, what your primary service is.
Okay. So in building this out, it's is it your pages that are important? Your pages for separate pages for services, separate city pages, and just getting as much content as you can when you're building this website?
Well, that's been the case in the past, where it's just the volume made all the difference. Right now, you want to really build only as much as necessary. Right now, Google's budget is burning like your garbage in the backyard. Like they're just going through their money right now like crazy. They're wasting so much money, and they know it and they hate it. And the reason they're wasting it is because there's so much content right now that's made by AI. And every time Google indexes something, that means they're spending their money to crawl that page. So Google is now a lot more picky about who they index, who they don't index. They're trying to figure out what's valuable, what's not. So for you to prove to Google that you're valuable, what you need is a strategy. And the strategy is very closely related to the term topical authority. So what is topical authority? It's when you're able to prove to Google that you have covered your primary topic completely and adequately and with depth. So what does it mean? If in your area, right, you want to rank for this specific roofing, cluster, let's say roofing company, roofing contractors, roofing um, uh, roofers, stuff like that, then you also need to rank for other things that are very relevant to those searches. For example, roof repairs, metal, commercial, all the type of searches that people might be searching for. You want to cover all of potential searches that are closely related to your primary search. A lot of times that is done through service pages. So you create service pages that are answering to those additional searches. But sometimes it's also covering blogs, answering questions that people search for. And usually the bigger the topical map in your area, the bigger the website is, and the smaller it is. The sooner you can rank for it. But topical authority nowadays is the buzzword in SEO world, where you want to make sure that you have covered every possible, query, search, interest that your customers might be having, but they also are having, because you can track that by looking at tools like SEMrush, ScaleNot, Ahrefs, and all of those fun things.
Are you doing that through blogging then? Are we taking these topics and then we're writing an article about it? And then the second question is, which is what I do. I mean, I use ChatGPT for everything basically, is come up with my my outline using what I think are the correct prompts, and boom, it's written. Is that okay, or are they penalizing AI content? What do you think?
Yeah, fair question. So now AI is so advanced and developed that you can literally ask, hey, ChatGPT, especially the 4.0, the smarter one. We are using old paid versions. We're about to start using the top one, the $200 per month subscription one. But even the free ones are fairly advanced. The 4.0 is, I would say, is really impressive. You can literally say it, hey, you can say it, hey, this is what I do, this is my company, this is where I service. Give me a comprehensive, semantically relevant, topical map for my SEO, project, so that I adequately cover all of my topical authority with my website. And that thing is going to do amazing job for you. That's what I'm saying. It's so much less manual work. It's amazing. However, there are elements that are still that would still require manual work. Why? Because ChatGPT is not a local buff. Like ChatGPT is great for general knowledge, for specific knowledge, but when it comes to local, it's very precise. It's very niched in. So what I would also do is, I would still do additional searches for what are people searching in my area, in my state. What are the questions that people ask? A lot of times we would also, go to these search platforms like SEMrush or ScaleNot or Ahrefs, and we literally search for queries that people ask within my state. What are people asking about roofing in my state? or in my city. A lot of times it's not so city specific, but state specific. It could be. And also, what I would do is I would go to people also ask, right? So you could type in roofing company, Spokane, Washington, and then Google will always produce additional questions that people ask, right? So you can start
Right.
looking at those, and those are not there for no reason. They're there because people ask them. People also ask. So what you want is you want to start, opening more and more and more of those people also ask questions, especially those that are relevant to your area and your location, and make sure that you answer those. Those are the ones that sometimes ChatGPT will not identify,
Mhm.
but you want to start using that, because that's literally internal knowledge that you can draw from. Google literally tells you what people are searching for. So the more you pay attention to what people search for within your topical map, the better, the sooner you're going to get, you're going to cover that topic. I would also look at things like Reddit. I would also look at things like Quora, those locations for most relevant, most fresh kind of topics that people raise. And if you run out of questions or topics for your city or state, you can move on to then you just national searches, but kind of interesting specific searches that
Right.
that might be fresh and new, and and something that's popular at this moment. And you being the first or one of the first to really produce high quality content will definitely catch Google's attention. And then if Google catches that attention, guess what? It goes to other places. And AI, ChatGPT, all others, they will use that you as a source, as literally the citation for their answers. We've done that multiple times when we would write a blog about some popular topic, and then you see that that is used as a source either in ChatGPT or even in the Gemini when Google is answering these queries, and it's literally linking
Getting
and
coffee.
and citing the blog that we wrote. So, but to answer your question, as far as like how to write it without being too generic, basically what you want to do is integrate your branding into everything you write. Integrate your branding into everything you write. So whether you use ChatGPT or not, make sure you educate your ChatGPT model about who you are, what your values are, what your unique qualifications, who you are, how long you've been in business, what are your credentials. All of those things you can work into the content, and
Mhm.
that's what makes it unique.
Okay. So, how important is are the maps? Getting into the map section, the GMB and
Yeah.
Google profile now. Um, I know when I'm looking for something, pizza near me, for instance, or whatever. I mean, I go to the maps. Is that to get in that top three pack? Is
Yeah.
it is that something you can is really worth putting your effort in? And if so, how do we do it?
Yeah, Dave. I mean, this is definitely top of the list. Somewhere in the top three of what's important right this second. Like, what you should really focus on. Maps has always been the top, position, top priority for SEO. I still consider maps as part of SEO world. It just local map SEO. The challenge with maps has always been proximity factor, right?
Right.
So proximity is not something you can fool. It's not something you can trick. So there is always that element as far as how far are you from the searcher. But there are elements, there are things that you can do to increase your proximity. And one of the biggest things there would be, of course, optimize it correctly. The nice thing about maps is it's directly tied to your website. So the more your website is optimized, the more it feeds into your map optimization. So the more city service pages you have, the more even maybe neighborhood pages you have that you want to target. Not every location needs neighborhood pages, but if your location is large enough, or your neighborhood could consists of 20, 30,000, you should consider just getting that neighborhood page, right? And that's something that you can link to your map and feed to your map and communicate to Google that, hey, we have this whole content for this specific region, and listen, and you embed that map on that page. Now you have linked the two together, and now you're screaming to Google, "Hey, we are here." So there are
Mhm.
ways to improve and expand your proximity by creating these city pages, location pages, especially neighborhood pages. But there is definitely a natural limit to it, and that limit comes down to your city specifically. Like it's almost impossible these days to rank in the neighboring city if you don't have a
Right.
listing with that address, right? So you can expand your proximity within your city, but if you want to compete in the next city, it's almost not worth trying because that's going to dilute your focus on your primary
Right.
city. So it's better to create a separate listing there, and that's something I always preach about. Hey, go get yourself a new listing there. You don't need to buy a fancy office. Even go get a shared office space. Shared office space, $200 a month, something so easy and cheap to do. It will be able to provide you a legitimate, you know, uh,
Hmm.
legitimate address to use then for your presence in that area. Yes, you need to verify. Yes, you need to do a video call. But hey, if you have a dedicated or not dedicated, desk in any of those shared office spaces, what you do is you just slap a computer, slap your logo,
Right.
and you show that this is your workspace, workplace where you can technically meet with your client. That's all they're
I have,
looking for.
yeah, I have a couple of guys that are doing well on that. I have another two clients that
Yeah.
Google pulled it. I mean, they had it all
Yeah.
set up, they were verified, and they just
Yeah.
boom. And once they do that, I mean, you have no idea why. You can't get hold of anybody, you're just screwed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a wild card with
Yeah.
maps. It's always been like that. It's one of those things. It's like, why are you doing things, Google? And they never explain to you. They
Yeah,
don't
I
they
know.
don't they don't set up a person to consult you and
Hmm.
explain to you what to do.
Right.
So usually in those cases, what you want, and really even before that happens, you want to be prepared for this because it's really not about whether or not you're going to get suspended. The question is when,
Right.
because every listing will be suspended. The question is when. Are you prepared for it? And to be prepared for it, you just need a couple of things. You need your business license with that address, something that you can show to them. You can have a utility bill with that address, and especially if you use a different name, let's say for that area where you included your maybe a service in there or a location in that name, you want to have a DBA, doing business as additional
Yeah.
paper. So those things is the tools that you have in your toolbox to reinstate your listing. And I've seen it many, many times happening. Like if that gets suspended, you then appeal, but you don't just appeal. You attach all the documents proving that, hey, no, 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 this is legit. I'm in this business. I have a business license with this address, and this is my name, and this is my phone number. So that's something you need to plan from the very beginning. You don't want to just slap, a listing with some random phone number that you don't control, or uh, you know, or you don't have any proof about that area. So it might work for a year or two or a month or a day, but you really want to prepare for the time when that's going to get suspended and what can you do to unsuspend it. And that's the fastest way to do it. Of course, even that sometimes it's pain in the butt. Um, but listen, if you have reviews attached to that area, right? If you've built those reviews 10, 15, 20, it's worth fighting for. It's
Yeah.
worth resubmitting, and like, listen, like we follow everything. Look, this is legit. And eventually you'll get to the right person, because
Yeah.
let's be honest, sometimes these
Yeah.
people are not that smart. Sometimes these people are from other
Hmm.
countries and they don't really read, or they're not consistent with their own policies. So you want to understand that there is so much bureaucracy in Google that you
Right.
just need to keep pushing.
Now I take it reviews are still everything. We got to get reviews, a lot of
Yeah.
reviews. Is that right?
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, that's one of those things that you can't. Well, you kind of can fake it. There's like whole businesses built on fake reviews, but
Yeah.
that's definitely something that's normal. That's natural for most businesses. But you're right. I mean, I do see businesses that are kind of they're not very intentional about it. And
Right.
in this day and age, you want to be as intentional as you can be. And using softwares, I know your listeners use Proline a lot. I mean,
Yep.
things like that where you have automated systems built in,
Hmm.
and it's part of natural process where as soon as the job is done, there's going to be text messages coming in, and not just one, not just two, not just three, but like 5 to 7
Hmm.
asking for that review. Going directly to text message, not an email. Like
Right.
those are the ways to generate those reviews. And of course, you know, if if you get to influence of what they say in that review, you want them to mention the city and the service and all the keywords that help. Because sometimes, and a lot of times,
Yeah.
Google will literally match the search with the words in the review, right?
Hmm.
I'm sure you've seen it. You search for roofing company in Spokane,
Right.
Washington, and it literally pulls up the review from one of the companies and highlights these same words. So if you can
Right.
influence that, even better. There are some
And
smart ways.
yeah, we have a whole process that we teach about how to not only how to get reviews and how important they are, and the
Right.
process that we take to get them, which is first
Mhm.
off be reviewable. Don't do crappy work. But
Yeah.
I like to. I set it up at the beginning where they know we're going to ask for a review. But you're right, and it's just that follow up and follow up and follow up. Now, along with what you're saying, what I have told my clients to do, and tell me if this is correct, but you mentioned the service in the city. So first off, always respond to reviews. Okay,
Yeah.
this is very important. And then what I like to do is say, Mrs. Jones, I really appreciate thanks so much for having us come out and replace your gutters in, this town and so forth. Does that, because Google's scanning that, right? Does
Oh
that
yeah.
does that help in
Oh
those
yeah.
responses?
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Everything helps. Like
Yeah.
there is an argument where what is helpful and what is not. I tend to think that everything makes a difference to some degree, and we don't always know exactly to what degree, but everything that you can use inside Google to be extra clear, and include keywords, you should be using that. So of course
Hmm.
Google pays more attention to what people say in their reviews versus your response, but they definitely pay attention to your
Right.
responses and what you say. It just maybe a little less, but it's still very important. I would even say there's a section of Q&A, like inside your GBP, of questions, right? And a lot of owners, they leave it empty. And what
Right.
I would say, no, don't do that. Like ask yourself a question and then answer that question.
Exactly.
Don't wait for a client to ask you a question. Ask yourself, hey, do you guys service this area? And then go and answer, yes, we do. Da, 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 blah, blah, blah. Include some keywords. It doesn't show from the outside who asked that question, but it definitely adds keywords,
Right.
adds more unique information that you would not have otherwise. Do you do these services? Yes, we do these services in these areas. And do you service this neighborhood? Yes, we do service this neighborhood. So use that.
We talk about keywords a lot, obviously. Now, in that instance, for instance, you'd mentioned using keywords in your responses and so forth. What's the best way to go about in finding those keywords that people are searching for?
Yeah, I don't like to make it too hard. It doesn't need to be too hard. Most keywords are common sense keywords. It's not like there's some secret knowledge. You know these things. You're the one who type them in. Whenever you search for other things, it's
Right.
usually going to be roofing company, roofing contractor, roofers, plus city a lot of times. But if you want more specific ones, if you want to really know what it is, there are tools out there. Inside our school, we use software called ScaleNut. It's an Indian-based software that pulls data from SEMrush, and it's a lot cheaper.
Hmm.
So SEMrush is definitely one we use inside the company, but it's just way too expensive for me to
Right.
advertise it. But that one is a good deal. Indian companies, a lot of times they copy some good solid softwares, but at a fraction of a cost. So
Right.
I like to use them. I've met them at the Chiang Mai, Thailand conference
Hmm.
last year,
Hmm.
and they've been good with us. They give us good discounts to our students and stuff like that. So Yeah.
couple more questions I've got along those. So, yeah, do those pins work? Okay. When you do a job and then you drop a pin everywhere and then what is it? Bird's Eye, I think, has these deals. So you're surrounding an area so it's very clear where you're working uh, in those maps. Now, I've heard that those don't do anything anymore.
Yeah, I mean that's an old question. I've talked to with multiple people about it, and I think my answer, it does not change too much about this. If it does help, it's a minimal help,
Right.
but it's nonetheless, it is a signal. It's a
Hmm.
signal. Do
Hmm.
you want to go through all of that work for that type of signal just for that sake? I think most of the time, not really, unless you're in a super competitive area. Like then this might be the final drop, in the bucket. But I would always say, hey, if it looks good for you, do it. It's more about the appeal, it's more about the experience of the client than about SEO when it's specifically talking about, this method. So if it looks good, if it helps your client to see, if it helps your traffic on your website to develop more trust, like that, those are the metrics I use for this type of question. So it's more than SEO. If it makes sense for you, if it fits in with your design, I think it's a good idea. So I would probably, if I'm an owner, I would probably have something that shows, my jobs. It's kind of nice, it's clean, but I would not expect it to be a major SEO element. There is a lot
Hmm.
more other ones, and usually the harder something is, the less impact it has on SEO. So SEO it tries to be common sense, and we don't need to overcomplicate it too much. And we do have students in the school who even use Google API map. Like they would literally go inside and create the map themselves within the Google's algorithm,
Right.
and it just takes a lot of time to do that. It
Yeah,
looks
it does.
kind of
Hmm.
interesting, but it's like you need to know what you're doing. It takes a lot of time. And does it help you with SEO? Probably a little bit does. Anything that you do to rub Google's back is a
Hmm.
good thing. But is it going to be any different than if you loaded it into your profile? Because every photo has a tag naturally, has a meta tag, has a geography tag on it, right?
Right.
So everything you take a picture, it comes with those coordinates. So it comes with that metadata already.
Mhm.
But do you want to organize it? It's cool. I think for a user, if I'm looking at a roofing company, it's kind of fun for me to see, what jobs they've done and how far they've traveled, how many they've done, like those type of
Yeah.
things.
Um, okay. What else can we do to optimize that page and move up on the maps? Because if we can get into the top three,
Yeah.
that's money.
Yeah. So, and that kind of brings us back to what I started with. In 2024 and 5 and 6, I think moving forward, I believe the primary SEO factor is going to be branding. And it already is. And the reason is simple. There's so much fluff out there right now. There's so much content out there right now. Hundreds of thousands of AI pages being
Hmm.
published every single day. There is no other way for Google to distinguish between legitimate, real company and some information out there that could or could not be true. A lot of times it's misleading information, because we all know AI, it just recycles information. It doesn't create information.
Right.
It hallucinates too a lot of times, meaning it recycles it, but it pulls wrong data sometimes, and it just
Hmm.
gives out some advice that is totally, it just makes no sense sometimes. Like, or sometimes it's even harmful. Like I've seen AI give very bad advice on health, or like where medical professionals like, no, 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 never, never do this. And of course medical professionals, everyone has their own take on them, but legitimately, like, you have it's like you can ask, hey, I have a headache or something, I have a pain in my stomach, and then the response will be, hey, go eat some rocks. It's like literally some
Yeah.
stupid stuff
Right.
like that. So Google is very concerned about its reputation, right? And so as every search engine. So the primary way to differentiate now will be branding. Branding,
So
what
explain branding a little more. Dig into that a bit.
yeah. Yeah, branding. What I mean by branding is recognition as a true legitimate representation of that industry, the leader inside that industry. So branding it's a superpower of today's search world. It's omnipresence. It's the proof that you are true, legitimate professional and specialist within your niche. So that in essence, that just means being everywhere and being there consistently. So whether it's YouTube, whether it's TikTok, now TikTok is kind of shady, and there's like questions about it,
Right.
but whatever, it doesn't matter in terms of podcasts, videos, audio, writing, being an author on Amazon. It all adds up to your brand. And the more recognized your name is and your brand is, the more trust you will have. Just think about it. Who is Google or ChatGPT, or who is it going to trust more? Me, who just created a roofing company yesterday
Mhm.
and claims to be the best, or a company that has YouTube videos coming out, podcasts coming out on multiple platforms, social accounts that are active. Like all of those things are going to be a major factor now. So that leads me to the next point, and I've been saying this inside the school. It's crucial that roofing companies in 2024, 5, 6, now we're past 4, but 5, 6, and moving forward, they understand that for them to win, they need to become marketing companies. They need to
Yep.
become marketing companies that sell roofs, not roofing companies that have some marketing. And that is the way to win in the future. Does it mean you start your marketing department from ground up? Maybe. Does it mean you acquire a marketing company that works exclusively for you now and builds your empire online? Maybe. Even we have been approached multiple times about being acquired. And it's like, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. Consolidation inside marketing industry is happening at the same time
Right.
as the roofing industry. But even roofing companies themselves buying out marketing companies, it is no longer a weird concept. To me, it actually makes a lot of sense. And we even ourselves, we're kind of open-minded about it too. It's like, well, if there's going to be ever a big company enough to value our vision and our skills and abilities, we might have a conversation about it, because we have some really really smart techniques and ideas that can really make you omnipresent online. Talking about microsites, and that's another thing that I wanted to
Right.
mention. That's one way to multiply yourself online, is to create
Before we
multiple.
get into that, and this kind of ties into
Yeah,
microsites, I think. Um, when it comes to branding,
yeah,
uh, I feel there's too many companies that are, jacks of all trades, master of none. They're,
yeah,
doing roofing, they're doing commercial, residential, all of these different things. So when we talk about branding,
yeah,
you're everything, as opposed to, riches are in the niches. Niche down, become an expert on something and become
hmm,
the best. But when you start diluting all of that, and I've always wondered, residential and marketing and commercial are two different businesses. So how do you market those two separate businesses on your website and in your branding?
yeah. Great question. I think the most effective branding is, like you said, niched in branding. And the reason is because the more competition you have, the harder it is to compete. With branding the same way, right? So you can be a company that does everything, right? Roofing and commercial and siding and gutters and this and that. But you need to choose your identity wisely. And if you want to be everywhere for other things as well, my best advice is to separate, is to split up. And I've seen that happen. I've seen how effective it can be, because if you try to be everything online, you will be nobody.
Right.
You'll be noise. If you specifically choose your focus with your company for this specific thing, and you still want to go after commercial, let's say, well, in today's day and age, the most effective way is to just open a DBA or another company and go all in commercial. If you want to open, your gutter department, well, don't just add a gutter page. Have a gutter DBA or company and go all in with that brand. Basically, the more niched in you are, the less you will have to compete,
Right.
because the rich, like you said, riches are in the niches. And the interesting thing is, the deeper you go into niches, the less brands you find, the more generalists there are. And all of a sudden, it becomes a lot easier to dominate your space because you are a brand for that particular service, and you didn't need to do nearly as much because nobody else is doing it. You just named your company with that service in there. You've made a few social media accounts, and now you are the authority because there is no other brands specializing in that specific thing, or very few. Like commercial, for example, usually there is not going to be that many commercial companies in your city. So rather than just having a page on your website, which you can, and it probably will do fine, but if you want to be strategic about it and future focused, you also at the very least create additional brand, and you go from that end, and that is going to be the most bulletproof way to dominate that area in the future.
So are you saying I've got XYZ company, we do residential, we do commercial. Okay. We're going to split off the commercial. So are you saying I start another company called ABC commercial, or how do we do that? Because we've just lost all of our juice from the other business that we've been working on for so hard, haven't we?
No, I don't think so. So a lot of times you don't need to start a new company, but you can just doing business as just additional name, right?
Okay.
So you can have in multiple states. I know some states allow up to 20, crazy 20 DBAs. I think in Tennessee or something. I
Mhm.
recently talked like crazy numbers, and it's like $50 or something to have another name, but it looks like it's totally different business online.
Yeah.
And especially if it's within the same industry, you don't need new permits, new insurance or anything like that. So illegally, you can function under the same LLC or S corp, but you might have multiple names online that focus specifically on each of the services that you provide. Now, on your main website, you can still have a page. Hey, we also do this and we also do this, but it's just one page, right? You don't dilute your website with just one page that mentions, hey, we also do this. But your main website, you want to choose what you're focusing on, which is a lot of times it's residential roofing, if that's your primary money maker, and that's where you go heavy on content optimization and focus with your primary website.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about reporting. What should I be getting? And this is what I see all the time is they hire an SEO company. They're
Mhm.
doing all this stuff. They're giving them 1,500, 2,500 a month. And we have no idea what's going on, if it's helping or doing this, because you never get anything back. And if you do, it's how relevant is it? Does it mean anything as far as, because all that matters, you getting
Yeah.
leads, you getting business. How do we know what's going on and what should we be looking at?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a good question. And sometimes it's a hard question because whose fault is it, that you have wasted so much money on SEO companies? Um, I think it's both a lot of times. A lot of times owners just have way too much unjustified trust, and they look at these reports and they're like, well, something's being done. And nobody
Right.
really takes time to really understand what's actually being reported. And what kind of traffic is this. So but at the end of the day, you need to have ability to track your leads. It's on you to track your leads, because reporting is reporting, but leads are leads, right? ROI is ROI. So SEO company can give you all the beautiful numbers, and you've seen them probably, but if they don't match with your lead increase, if they don't
Mhm.
match with your calls coming in, then you have a real problem. But sometimes you might have an increase in traffic and an increase in leads, but you're just not tracking it, and you're like, oh, my brand is doing great.
Right.
People it's word of mouth. Well, maybe it's not. Maybe it's truly SEO work. Like, do you have a system in place to distinguish the source of your leads and track that? Because if you don't, then how are you gonna measure anything? So it comes kind of hand in hand with, yes, reports are important, but more importantly, it's tracking, because that is the foolproof method to test whether or not your SEO is working. It's the most basic one, but it's the most effective one. Like, you literally track where the leads are coming from.
And how do we track our leads? Because the problem is,
yeah,
let's say they see our wrapped truck driving down the highway. Well, they're going to go to our website and check us out and then call. Then when we say, hey, how'd you find us? I found you through Google. Well, they didn't find us through Google. They found us through our truck wrap. Okay.
yeah.
And trying to get this information is always very difficult for me. So to figure out what's really working and what's not, how do we do that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, and to a large degree, it's not a problem of an SEO agency, right? It's not what they are supposed to fix for you. It's for
Right.
you to figure out what is the best method. SEO agency's job is to generate traffic, but also to rank you for the money keywords which should generate traffic. Your job is to find ways to distinguish. But it's a hard question for me because I'm not an owner. I'm not a roofer.
Right.
So I know there is different options, but the most kind of the foolproof, the most ancient one is literally to assign a source to each lead that comes in. Like, it's a manual labor, but it's just what it is. Another one, I think a little bit more I think advanced, especially when it comes to your city service pages, right? You could assign different phone numbers to different locations, right? So you could do that, and when the call is coming from this page, you know exactly where it came from. Like, you know
Right.
exactly that it could not have been through ads, it could not have been through branding and whatnot. Now, obviously, your homepage is a lot of times your key money maker, so that's where it becomes a little hard, because you do also want to invest in your branding. You want people to search you by name. And that's where the talks come in. It's like, okay, you found us. All right. Well, how did you find us
Right.
online? Did you search for our name, or did you search for a roofing company? Like, that's just an extra question you need to ask and learn to ask it, which will enable you to distinguish between SEO traffic versus branded traffic. But on other pages, like city pages, service pages, if you really wanted to, you could assign a separate phone number that forwards to your primary one. But you can also go back and always see, hey, these are the numbers that came to us from this location, from this location, from this page,
Yeah.
from this page. Yeah.
Am I better off investing money in SEO or just going for paid ads, pay per click?
Yeah. You're asking an interested party. But listen, whatever aligns with your values, I would say. Some companies are here for quick return, right? They need immediate leads. All right. I mean, PPC probably is going to be the better way to spend money in this case. You just need to understand what you're not getting with it. You're not getting consistency.
Right.
You're not saving money. You are potentially going to waste a lot of money. And you do need to know what you're doing, because you will 100% waste hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Exactly.
So if you know what you're doing, if you understand that this is a quick way to generate some cash flow, if you're not pretending like this is going to be the game changer for you, like this is valuable to your assets, to your potential buyer in the future, then it's okay. But I see sometimes people, so excited about their PPC traffic. The problem is you don't own any of this traffic.
Right.
Literally, the moment you shut it off, it's gone.
Yep.
And then any moment that Google wants, they can raise prices. At any moment, they can be a lot more companies that show up, new companies show up every day, right? And Google is not married to you. You're literally on rotation.
Yeah.
And me as a buyer of a roofing company, I look at this very carefully, potentially, right? If you're gonna sell your company eventually, which probably most people will, or at least they're thinking about it. If I'm comparing a company that has organic lead generation, where the company is spending very few dollars on lead generation, it's all organic, right? It's not something they have to constantly pay for. And I look at a company that's maybe the same numbers in revenue, right? But that other company is generating all of that revenue through PPC, which is could be a huge budgets, or it's very unpredictable, unstable. I have a very clear winner here.
Right.
A very clear winner. Organic SEO is way cheaper. It's more sustainable. Its longevity is different. Quality a lot of times of leads is different. So, but I think there is space for PPC for paid ads, maybe to get things going, maybe in some dry seasons to get some cash flow going. But just look at it the same way. Don't expect anything more from this.
The way I look at SEO also is we talk to, our coaching clients. We, from day one, we build to sell, because doesn't necessarily mean we need to sell it, but you're building a business of value that somebody's going to be interested in. Now, where SEO comes in, which I don't see as being talked about very often, you get to somebody taking a look at your company and you're ranking at the top. Okay. That brings their cost of acquisition down tremendously, and to have that, it takes years and years and years. So when you've got that value and you've got 500, 800 reviews, 5-star reviews, that's got value. And that's where that investment really, really plays in. It's like growing a tree, start growing a tree. Well, it's a long time, but 5 years down the road, you're going to have this big tree producing fruit. And that's how I look at this and why it has so much value. I just always wonder how much money that you should put into it, though, because I think people just waste. They just have no idea.
Yeah, no, I totally understand you. I think I think people get what they pay for a lot of times, and a lot of times they get what they deserve. I can be a little bit harsh here, but listen, where else would you give money to somebody else, crazy amounts of money, without understanding anything about
Right.
what they're going to do with their money, or with your money? Where else are you going to give 100,000 to somebody without understanding anything about what they're going to do with that? Like, to me, that's crazy. So that's the whole premise of what we're doing. Is like,
Right.
listen, SEO makes sense, but there is a better way to do it. And the better way to do it is understand it, understand what it is, how to measure it, how it works. And if you want to go hire someone, go do it, but at least have the tools to analyze and keep them accountable. So we do have students in the school who have never done it themselves, and maybe they've never worked with us, because we do offer some done for you services, but they have hired an SEO agency, and I'm okay with that, because listen, that's their choice, but at the very least, they're equipped right now
Right.
to ask correct questions. Their risks are a lot lower. And now it's on them to use the tools that we have provided, such as, what kind of backlinks have you guys provided me that last month? Show me those backlinks. Are they relevant to my industry? How many pages have you built that are actually part of the topical authority that we're trying to cover here? How many service pages have you built and how optimized they are? Show me the scores of optimization. Like, those are the questions that roofing companies should be asking.
Right.
And the problem is either they're just too lazy sometimes to do that, or maybe they just have the right person to do it. They don't have a marketing manager to ask those questions. But a lot of times it's unfortunate, but they are being punished by their own kind of naivety. They're just too naive to keep them accountable. So I think there is a better way. Sure.
And I agree. And this is what's so great about your school is, you mentioned right off the bat where we're turning into marketing companies. Okay. We have to be marketing companies to survive in this business. So schools like yours, Joseph Hughes, Contractor Dynamics, where they teach you marketing. They're not taking your money for that, but you're learning these things. And as a businessman, running a business, you have to know these things now, and you have to put in
Yeah.
the energy and the effort to learn. Otherwise, you're going to rely on other people, and you're going to get ripped off all the time. So you shouldn't
Yeah.
be pissed off, you know.
Yeah.
And wrapping up a couple of things. One, you mentioned backlinks. How important are backlinks? How do we get them, and what kind of backlinks? What do backlinks mean? It's always been a kind of a complicated thing to understand.
Yeah, I mean, the very simple way to explain it, it's an online celebrity contest. So, you want to be mentioned by these celebrities. The more people talk about you, the more popular, the more trustworthy you are in the
Right,
regular world, right? Like if you want to be elected as as a president of the U.S., you want endorsements, right? That's kind of how it works. Endorsements is backlinks in the digital world. So it's basically other websites endorsing you and giving you a vote of confidence. Now, you can get endorsements from people who are irrelevant to the process, right? Just like in the real election world. I mean, you can have endorsement from a president of China. For people of US, it's going to be okay. Well, maybe that's a bad thing. But if you get endorsement from people that the general public trusts, right now, that's a powerful one. So
right,
in the same thing online world, if you're getting endorsements from relevant niche specific websites, sources that people trust and that Google trusts, that has a lot more value than hundreds of endorsements from some
right.
Chinese websites or Russian websites
Yeah.
that have very little relevance to your
So
area
how
of
do
need.
we get them? How do we get
Yeah. So
good
how do you get them? Well,
backlinks?
number one source of backlinks right now, I would say, is going to be press releases, PR. It's called digital PR. You can easily just Google it, digital PR. And that is basically news outlets that are using you as a source in their news, right? Or using your blog or your, information to just fulfill the need to produce news on their
Mhm.
websites. So there are services that offer that. I would not necessarily recommend you going directly to these, you know, news, Yahoo News, Bazinga, Fox Nation or whatever. Like there's many different ones. There's middlemen who have established connections with these news sources.
Right.
You can easily find them. Well, easily is a stretch a little bit, but there are out there. We talk directly about them in the school. We have a few that we recommend, and you pay them a small fee from 100 to roughly I think it's $500 per press release, it's called, and that thing goes out to hundreds of news
Right.
outlets. Now all of a sudden, you get these backlinks from news networks, and that is huge. What is it? Branding, right? Signal
Hmm.
to Google.
Hmm.
Hey, these other guys talking about you. That also is branding for your clients, because when they search for your name online, boom, these news networks, news articles show up. You being mentioned there, and that is right now is one of the top quality backlinks that you can get. And other ones would be like guest posts. Let's say there is a blogger, right, who's writing, maybe a mom blogger who's writing about home exterior or home interior. Yeah, she's just that's her focus. It's home improvement type of topic blogger. And inside of one of their articles, they mention you as a reference, as a source. And that is also very important. That's not news. This is not big,
Yeah.
names, but it's a very niched in, very specific, relevant link from a very particular niched in blog. Google looks at that also as very valuable. She might have 1,000 visitors per month, not hundreds of
Hmm.
thousands, but that is very niched in, industry relevant backlink now. So that's also very important. Those are also acquired through specific middlemen. You can of course look for hey, mom bloggers who write about home interior,
Hmm.
and you can reach out directly. It's going to take you a lot of time to
Yeah.
do that. You can do that potentially, but there are some trusted middlemen that are kind of like
Mhm.
subcontractors in the world of SEO. that
Right.
can provide those to you. We talk about them in the school, but you can find them also.
What about buying backlinks?
All of them are bought. Like nobody's going to mention you for for just because they liked your website, unless they know you directly. You can always ask for if you have friends or relatives running businesses in your area, or roofing contractors in the other area, them linking to you could be great. That could be great. Mentioning you as a reference in their next blog. Just don't. My biggest thing is don't do the reciprocal. Like don't give
Yeah.
back the backlink that you receive just because it looks very shady to Google.
Hmm. Hmm.
So if you do give a backlink to someone, don't expect them to give you a backlink. Just get them.
Right.
The other person can get them a lunch or something, or a steak or something.
There you go.
But most other backlinks are paid. It's kind of normal too. Because a lot of endorsements are also paid. It doesn't mean that people are like shady or it's illegal or anything, but it just means that that's how these people make money. I mean,
Yeah.
that's how blogging mom makes money. That's why she's blogging. That's how she's making her living. So as long as it's relevant, as long as you are who you are, and as long as it fits in with her story, she will mention you. Of course, if you're going to pay her $500 and your website sucks and you have nothing there and it's
Right.
complete garbage, you have no reviews, she might not even want to take that. So there's a lot of just natural things that fall in place that need to be right. But a legitimate backlink usually would be somewhere around $200-300
Hmm.
from the blogger, and then from the news sources, you might get hundreds for a couple $100.
Okay. Last question. Finally,
Yeah, yeah.
let's talk video and YouTube.
Mhm.
How important is that, and how do we go about that?
Yeah,
Because
I mean, yeah. To me, in the past, it was a little bit more of kind of an ego show in a sense. Like a lot of these companies, they're trying to be YouTubers, and it's like, come on, guys, just do your job, have a solid website, have a few videos, and that's good. Nowadays, it's a lot more than just party for your name. It's literally part of branding. Now it's important not just for the person, the searcher, the visitor to find you on YouTube, which is crucial now, because people do search for roofing companies online, on YouTube. I mean, also, like if I'm looking for a roofing company now, I'm probably gonna also see if they have some YouTube videos. But more than anything, that is a huge brand signal
yeah,
to all search engines: ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Google, like anything you say. So nowadays, it's hard to imagine a brand without a YouTube channel. So and now it's also getting into hard to imagine brand without a podcast channel. So now you see all these roofing companies becoming podcast studios and building
right.
podcast studios everywhere. And it's like, why are you doing this? And the answer is simple. These people, of course, you have to like it. They want to do it maybe a little bit for their own gain, but it's also very smart and future forward looking, because that is a brand building element now. So for you to be recognized as trustworthy roofing brand, you just want to be active, and there are smart ways to go about it. There are some trickeries there a little bit. There are some smart kind of shortcuts. You can use AI for that. You can literally take your blogs and then really flip them into videos, flip them into audios, without almost touching anything. There
Right.
are things like we're
Yeah.
working on that right now,
Hmm.
uh, to develop kind of an automated process to supplement, things that naturally happening, just to add volume. But imagine you have a blog that's being posted, and as soon as it posted, it also transcribes into a YouTube video, then creates a YouTube video, and then posts it on YouTube, and then also creates an automatic transcription into a voice file. Goes to 11 labs. 11 labs records that using AI voice, and then it automatically posts on your podcast studio on some SoundCloud or something, or
Yeah.
Apple.
Yeah.
Like that stuff is pretty cool. And it's not just cool, it's now kind of an important element of SEO world, of brand recognition, of being found and recognized as a brand.
Okay. Well, that's some great information, Dima. I really appreciate
Yeah.
it. Why don't you tell us a little about the school, how we can get involved with that? Because a lot of our clients are enrolled in the school. They love it. And as I always say, you need to learn how to do this stuff so you're not going to get ripped off. So you can stop bitching about getting ripped off and learn how to do it, whether you're going to do it yourself or have somebody else do it. You got to know it. You got to understand it because it is important if you're going to grow a business.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you don't know where your money is going, it's primarily your fault, and it's just the hard
Yep.
truth. So I think in this day and age, there is no reason not to be ignorant. You can be educated, even if you do decide to hire someone. Be educated, but what we're finding is that once you learn something, once you understand something, once you see how easy it is, you almost immediately start thinking, well, why do I need to pay someone this much money if I can make my own marketing department with the same amount of money or less? And that person can be doing everything else, not just SEO. They can do videos, they can do audio, they can do editing. They can do so much more for the same amount of money that I'm paying this SEO company. So I think it's just a smarter way to invest your money is to educate yourself, see if you're able to handle it, which you will understand that it's not a rocket science as people paint it to be. It's not some dark magic. You can do it yourself. Now, the first 3 months, they are a bit more challenging. I won't lie. There is some things there. There are some things that are harder. Design is nobody likes to design things themselves, right? Writing even content can be a little tricky. So we do offer optional done for you first 3 months packages where we just get involved with everything. We dive into your website. We completely rebuild it if necessary. We build hundreds of pages for you. We design things. And then after 3 months of you educating yourself in the school is free during those 3 months. You learn all these things, you understand them. And then beginning month 4, you take over and we become your guide. Now you're spending, 2-3 hours per month on your SEO to continue climbing. And that same person, marketing person, will be able to not just do SEO, but so much more to build that solid brand that you need, whether it's social media or YouTube, podcasts, videos, pictures, just activity on X.com. All of these fun platforms that exist that are no longer just about fun. It's about proving to the world that you are who you claim to be. So yeah.
Cool.
Everyone is welcome into the school, and you can reach us at roofingseoschool.com. Book a call with me. I'm handling all the calls myself, and would love to see you on the inside.
Awesome. Well, Dima, it's always great to see you. Let's make it a little shorter here this next time. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Things are changing so fast, so we should talk maybe at least in the next year, but maybe even sooner.
definitely, definitely. Well, we'll keep in touch, and I really appreciate it. It's great to see you.
Yeah, absolutely, Dave. Thank you for having me, and
You bet.
thank you for listening to everyone.